So we have breaking news to start off this segment, and it's not about Trace McSorley getting the assistant quarterback's coach job at Penn State.
Trying to breathe him in the fucking mic today.
Noah, last time, if you did watch last time or saw any clips, Noah was breathing into his mic pretty heavily, so I think he's a little shy today.
That's on me.
Mike shy for sure. But the breaking news is that Hooters is going bankrupt. I'm going to be honest with you. So Devin Booker, so if you guys haven't seen it yet, Devin Booker was very upset about this happening. I guess you guys can see
Please
this now.
don't go.
And apparently he's a big Hooters fan, but I just have to retaliate against that. Their food sucks. It's awful.
Man, I only been to Hooters like once. I was like 13 and it was in Atlanta.
I bet you had the time of your life at 13 years old.
I feel like you only went to Hooters like I don't know, this is gonna sound so fucked up, but I feel like if you're a respectable human, you only went when you were like younger.
Yeah.
It's like a rite of passage, you know.
Sub 21 is the only age is acceptable to go to Hooters.
I have been once past 21, but
it was a bunch of creeps, wasn't it?
It was in High Point. And actually, you know that Hooters right down the street.
Right across from the Taco Bell.
Yeah, it was during that summer school thing that I did, and we went one time. We had nothing else to do, to be fair. I only knew like 2 people at the school at the time. And
not a lot to do in High Point anyways. So.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess I want to start with this because I made a video about this today, and I just kind of have to get it off my chest again and actually talk to somebody, I keep seeing these tweets about Justin Fields, and like I feel like we do this thing every single year. It's like Justin Fields is a free agent. Everybody, all the Steelers fans want to bring him back, and I see people like hyping him up to go work with McVay or go work with even the Vikings, and I'm just not understanding the obsession. Like that is the number one thing that I saw this morning on my Twitter feed was Justin Fields to the Rams, like it would be electric, and the Steelers need to re-sign Justin Fields. I'm really not understanding it. So I kind of wanted your guys' opinion on the whole Justin Fields situation, because to me, I feel like he's just a career backup at this point.
Yeah, well, what's he going on, year 5?
Yeah.
So
he's on his 5th-year option, or I guess no 5th-year option this year, actually.
Yeah. To me, I think what it is there's 2 things to it. One, it's a young guy, and I think most people would rather take a chance on a young guy who they see as still having like potential or have not reached their ceiling than someone like, that is a career like Gardner Minshew. Like if you get Gardner Minshew, you know what you're getting. I guess people still hold on to this like maybe Justin Fields can be a starting quarterback. I also think with Fields, it's like he is a dynamic rusher, whether he's great at throwing the ball or not. So I guess his floor is automatically higher than most people just because you know what he's going to bring to the game in the rushing attack. But I think it's more of the young stuff. Like, again, Panthers fan, I see also Panthers news. People are talking about where Trey Lance was going to land this year, and I see a ton of Panthers fans being like, we need to bring Trey Lance in. We need to bring Trey Lance in. And I'm like...
You already know what you got after. Trey Lance is more of an argument to me than Justin Fields, just because we've seen Justin Fields as a full-time starter.
I mean, Lance was drafted the year before Fields, right?
Yeah, I'd say they're on like that. I get your point though. They're kind of like on the same. Like,
yeah.
Fields is better, obviously, but I already know more of what I got out of Justin Fields, so I'd be more reluctant because when you do sign him, he's going to be more than likely your starter. At that point, I don't think he would be your backup, and I don't think he'd sign somewhere where he doesn't get an opportunity. Now with Trey Lance, I feel like if you sign him, it's automatically known like you're going to be quarterback 3 or whatever. So
yeah,
this is what I'll say about this. I know what you're saying. It's the unknown. With Trey Lance, it's like, well, we don't know. So it's like, why not take a chance on something we don't know about? Maybe it is great. We know what we're getting with Justin Fields, or so you presume. I personally think Justin Fields can start in the right setup. He had the Bears and the Steelers offense to work with his entire NFL career. The Bears really had little to no playmakers, in my opinion. I know DJ Moore came there, but other than that, There really wasn't much there. The Steelers, their offensive line was middle of the pack. I think they had 59% pass block win rate is what I found.
Yeah, they were very average.
As a Vikings fan, everyone wrote off Sam Darnold, and look what he was able to do in the right situation. I personally think the Steelers did him a disservice with how they handled that situation. The Bears fucked him over too. His confidence is completely shot. This guy was the number one player in the 2017 class. Not the number one quarterback, the number one player. I get it, okay? He's looked like crap at times. And you can look at his numbers and you can pick out clips where he's struggled. But in my opinion, if you're talking about him going to the Rams, it's a quarterback guru in Sean McVay. I think if you're putting him in the right situation, I do think that he can be a successful NFL quarterback. Now, is he going to have that?
How is Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh's not. So I get what you're saying about Pittsburgh, but Arthur Smith did make Ryan Tannehill look like an MVP candidate. And he also, in the past, I mean, he's been a quarterback guru throughout his career too. And Justin Fields, in my opinion, and I know he went 4-2, but
I mean,
if you
6
look
starts,
at those wins,
so we're taking 6 starts and just going to completely doom the guy? Like I said,
I mean, not 6 starts. You look at him in Chicago, he was the worst fourth quarter quarterback in the NFL.
Chicago was shit.
If games ended for the Chicago Bears in the third quarter, they would have won 10-plus games that year.
I understand what you're saying. That's also the growing pains of a young quarterback. If you put him on Chicago with what they have now, you don't think that he would actually do pretty solid?
No.
Okay, then we're going to agree to disagree.
No, I don't.
That's fine, but I do think that this guy can be a starting quarterback. You're looking at some of the other starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and you don't think Justin Fields can get another chance in the right situation with the right coach?
If I'm looking at all 32 NFL teams, I can't think of, like, even if you think of, like, the Jets, I'm taking Tyrod Taylor, like, over Justin Fields.
Bro. Come on.
AOC with the Raiders?
Taking AOC, you're taking Will Levis?
Aiden O'Connell?
That's close. Maybe the Raiders.
Like, I would agree. Like, I think he's definitely bottom. He's like 28-32. I'm not trying to argue that.
He's like on the Aiden O'Connell level. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. But like the other day, the last episode, we were talking about, Shedeur or Cam Ward going to the Giants and how the Giants would be. Like, I think if you put Justin Fields on that team, they're more competitive right now than with Shedeur Sanders.
I would
agree. For the Giants?
Yeah,
I disagree. Disagree heavily. I mean, right now, maybe, but if you go after free agency and they lock up like a better offensive line, no. Like if they, let's say the Giants upgrade their offensive line because that's their weakness right now. I mean, it's one of the worst in the NFL. And I had a choice.
Well, quarterback is too, but yeah.
Yeah, but if I had a choice and I'm like, am I going to take Sanders or am I going to take Fields? I mean, obviously, I'm going to go with Sanders.
I would take Sanders too because it would be his first year rookie contract. You also don't know what he's going to be, but I'm just saying, like we were talking about the Giants being a potential team because they have kind of the money to spend and the weapons around. Like, I think if they did upgrade the offensive line, it would be the best offense he played on.
Yeah,
I think
I'd probably agree.
I think he would be better than a rookie quarterback would be. So I think that alone puts him in like the 25-ish, 26-ish
I just feel like when
range.
you watch Fields, though, like it was the same problem in Chicago as it is with Pittsburgh. Like he didn't play. So if you look at it from from an outsider standpoint, who's not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you look at it and you're like, why did they bench Justin Fields? So my question is, how do you have confidence in Fields at all if he was 4-2 as the Steelers starter and he still was benched? It's because they knew, and Mike Tomlin knew, and they made the right decision because Russ did end up being a better quarterback.
That's because Russ didn't come there to be a backup.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't matter. He was on the minimum. Who cares? You can release him. It doesn't hurt anything. I mean, if he's going to cry about it, it doesn't even matter. Fields misses. Fields cannot read an NFL defense. Like, if you watch Justin Fields, he is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league when it comes to actually going through progressions and finding the open guy. Instead, he is what everybody thought Lamar was going to be, and he takes off too early. He doesn't actually look past his first read. Like, he's that bad. Like, I think the rushing upside is there as a backup quarterback. But am I going to take a flyer on him? Probably not. I'd rather just tank at that point. Like Pittsburgh, it doesn't make any sense to bring him back to me. That makes zero sense to me. because you're just going to win 8 or 9 games again.
I just feel like he's also been in defensive-minded cultures. Like, I haven't seen him go to a culture where it's like, hey, we predicate the offense here. Like, if
Didn't
he
have what's his name in Chicago before Matt Eberflus?
Let's not talk about any coach that came through
Hold
Chicago.
on. No,
That's the other
chill,
thing.
chill. He's a Super Bowl champ. Oh, my God. Who's the offensive coordinator right now for the Chiefs? Matt Nagy.
Oh,
Matt
yeah.
Nagy.
Yeah, that
I mean, he made Mitch Trubisky that first year. They won 11 games.
for 1 year, yeah.
And
then-
he has 2 Super Bowl rings as an offensive coordinator. So, I mean.
This is also a team that has never had a 4,000-yard passer in their entire existence.
And Justin Fields was one of them to not hit that feat.
Correct. Because it's a terrible offensive culture, in my opinion. And the Steelers, outside of Big Ben, like I know Big Ben obviously was there for a number of years, but like, what have they had to really show from the offensive side of the ball?
I mean, Russ made it look. If you look at the last 3 games of Pittsburgh, you're like, yeah, it was pretty bad. But if you go back and look at like those first
The Bengals
8
game,
games,
yeah, but the Bengals were absolute shit.
Didn't they lose like their last 5?
Yeah.
they lost
And he
their
looked
last 3
terrible.
or last 4. Yes, but if you look at that stretch from when he was brought in, he
When
was
they didn't
obviously
have film on him? Yeah, I remember that. The first like 3
everybody
to 4
has film
games.
on Russell Wilson.
Not in that
And you have
offense.
film on the offense. You have film on the offense, and you know what Russell Wilson is. He's a moonball guy. Like that's all he can do at that point. Like,
I think it is a conversation about who I would rather have between those two
between Russ or Fields,
going into next year.
I wouldn't. I mean, if you were Pittsburgh, would you take either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? Like, I don't even think it makes sense to
If I
sign
could skip
either
both,
of them.
I would like to, but
I
Yeah,
mean,
if
I
I
had
would.
to
Why
choose.
not? Why not at that point? This is a whole different conversation. But with the Steelers, like, it doesn't make any. They keep saying we're going to bring back one of these guys. Why? So
You have the
can.
biggest diva wide receiver in football, and then outside of that, what playmakers are there?
It doesn't make any sense. And if I was a quarterback, I wouldn't want to go there. Like if I'm Matt Stafford, what would make me want to go to Pittsburgh?
$50
what
million?
like entices me? Yeah, money.
At this
So you're
point,
gonna have
because
to
you
throw-
already have the Super Bowl, so yeah, sure, I'll take my bag for the next year, 2 years, whatever it might be. Which I think is such a bullshit way of looking at it. Like I said, I think the guy's still got some left in the tank. At least I think he deserves at least one more shot in a culture that is stable. And I'm not talking about from a entire culture. I'm talking about from the offensive side.
yeah, I couldn't imagine winning 6 games or 4 of my first 6 games with the team, and the team looks really good. And the whole time you're winning games, everyone's like, "When's Russ coming back? Is Russ going to be the starter? When he comes back, Russ is going to be the starter." Like
And
that's just.
I saw your video, Matt, of you talking about how when the Steelers defense gave up more than 20 points, they lost those games that Justin Fields started. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying that when you do that's why I think they did him a complete disservice, because if your plan was always to go with Russ, why did you bring in this guy? Why did you bring in this young guy? You completely ruined any confidence he had. He won, like Noah said, he won 4 of his first 6 games. I'm not saying that the stats were through the roof, but he still won those games. You know how hard it is to win in this fucking league?
Well, that's why I'm curious. Why did they bench him? If that's why I'm saying the underlying issue is he won
Because of
4
Mr.
out of his
Unlimited,
6
because he has to
games.
have everything his way.
Russ
Russ
was on
is-
a minimum contract.
I think
Okay.
Russ is a cancer in the locker room. You hear from Marshawn Lynch and Richard Sherman how they had to go through another guy just to talk to Russ. I guarantee there was some contingency in that contract, whether or not we know it as the public or not, that Russ was going to be the starter when healthy.
If the Steelers weren't in playoff contention late, Justin Fields would have been playing football again. We even talked about it heading into the playoffs. Should Justin Fields see snaps this week because their offenses looked so piss poor? Like that was an actual talking point people were making. I think if they weren't in playoff contention around week 12, 13, Fields would have finished off his last games, because that's about when Russ started losing 5 in a row or whatever it was to end the season.
Right. I guess my question to finish off this conversation, pause, is just so if you're the Steelers and you bring back Justin Fields, if you're saying that his confidence was ruined because of Russ, the Steelers, to not ruin that confidence, would need to bring in somebody who is not a threat, where there is no conversation. So if you're saying it was the confidence thing, then that means you're insinuating that the Steelers should sign Justin Fields and sign some known backup quarterback that you know is going to be the backup instead of bringing in somebody to compete. Is that basically what you're saying? Because if you have some guy behind him like Russ,
he should not go to the Steelers. I do not think it is a good fit for him. I think that's what this comes down to, is that he needs a different culture.
Where's his fit?
I mean, I don't know if this fit is going to be 100% because I think this team does have a questionable culture, but I do like the coaches that they've brought in, and I think Vegas would make sense. Whether or not he goes there or not, who knows? But if you put him with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, I think there's something to be made of that. I also think, we just talked about it, Los Angeles. I think if you partner him with a guy like a Sean McVay to boost his confidence back up, I think it can absolutely help. I think the guy absolutely deserves at least another chance to start in this league, considering the situations that he's been in. That's just how I feel.
I also feel like he's just handled things like a pro, man. Like, how that last year unfolded in Chicago was just shitty. I mean, you had DJ Moore saying going into offseason, like, we want Justin Fields, we don't want whoever you're going to draft. And you have a lot of the fans saying they want to keep Justin Fields. And then he just handled that with such grace. And then this year he handled the whole situation with Russell Wilson with grace, just put his head down and kept working. Like, hasn't been a problem, hasn't been an issue in the locker room, and just kind of worked through that. I like to see guys like that get the opportunity whenever it comes to him. I just feel like he's been kind of dealt an unfortunate hand. Hasn't played the greatest, but it's not an issue like Trey Lance. I mean, you know, every time he's moved to a new team, people have been like, oh, like if Dak Prescott goes down, I wonder how Trey Lance will look in Dallas. And he doesn't even get to see the field because he looks like shit in practice and he looks like shit in the limited snaps he gets in preseason.
Cooper Rush was ahead of him for a reason.
Yes.
Fair points. I will actually take those points, take them into my knowledge, and maybe my opinion has swayed a little bit. Maybe Vegas does make sense. But I'm just saying, in a year,
I also
less
think
than
it's
a year
a team
from
that
now,
doesn't have like the expectation. I think he needs to go to a team where the expectations aren't through the roof. Like,
I mean, Chicago had such low expectations that last year.
Chicago is just a tough city, anyways. Though, like, it's such a cutthroat sports city as a whole.
All right, so Justin Fields needs to be coddled. He needs to be in the perfect situation.
I don't think it's coddled, but I think he needs to go somewhere where he can boost his confidence. I think that's really what he needs. I mean, I don't think a Tennessee is right for him, but like, there's no expectations going to Tennessee. But Tennessee's got nothing there, so I wouldn't put him in that situation.
I guess we'll know by next year, and I'll come back and just say, "I told you so." I actually hope he gets this situation.
That's fine. And look,
I'm
if
just stand on that.
If I'll put it to you like this: if he becomes a starter next year and he fails, then I'm totally fine with moving off of it.
I think it's.
But I think, hey, what do we always say? Third time's the charm.
I mean, this is his 5th year.
Third team.
Okay. All right, let's talk about some other free agency situations. So I did have a question about, because I feel like there are so many teams under pressure this offseason, because there's so many teams that I feel like are close to winning a Super Bowl or also had a lot of expectations last year and maybe they fell under that. So which team do you guys think has the most pressure going into free agency, like to make the best moves, to make everything go right? I guess this is more of a GM question. Which GM has the most pressure in free agency? Let's not even talk about the draft yet.
Oh, I think it's Ryan Poles. I think it's no doubt in my mind. I flirted with the Commanders, but they had this revelation year where nothing was really expected, and now it's like, oh shit, we got all this cap space, like we can actually do something. I think it's the Bears, no doubt in my mind. I think this is a team that we've just talked about them, but it's a team. You have your focal point at quarterback now. You have your coach now. You have some pieces on the O-line. You have the 4th most cap space available at $79 million. You got to go make a splash. I think it's got to be. We talked about it in a previous episode with Trey Smith. If KC doesn't retain him, I know that they're working really hard, probably as we speak, trying to keep him. You have the solid foundation on the defense. This is a team, in my opinion, with the right signings and the right draft picks that can compete right away for a Super Bowl next year.
Chicago.
Let's not forget.
I won't get high on chat. I won't.
Matt was high on him this year.
I think me and you, Tyler, are on the same wavelength with the Jets last year.
I was
and
not
Chicago
high on the Bears
last year.
I was not high on the Bears last year.
I picked them to win the division
because I did not believe in Matt Eberflus. I do like Ben Johnson. I'm still waiting to see. I also am not a big fan of Ryan Poles, so he's got a lot to prove to me, in my opinion. But let's not forget, if that Commanders Hail Mary doesn't happen, who knows what happens to Chicago last year? They were about to be 5-2. Then they proceeded to lose 9 straight after that. The whole complexion of the season would have been completely different if that Hail Mary doesn't connect. The NFC North is stacked. I get it. But you got to imagine one of those 3 playoff teams is going to regress next year, which leaves the door open for Chicago. I think not making the playoffs next year would be an enormous disappointment and maybe one of the bigger disappointments in the league if Chicago fails to make the playoffs next year.
Noah?
Yeah, I'm not going to say the Bears just because I think there's too many questions around the coaching staff and things like that. There's a ton of changes made outside of that. Also, I just hope the Bears are perennially ass until for the
I
end
mean,
of
I do
time.
too. I hate Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago is such a big market. They always get so much stuff. Every year for them is make it or break it. Like, it's been that way since, like, their last Super Bowl in 1942. So, my answer, I feel like, was the easiest answer, which was New England. Yeah.
Was who?
The Patriots. I think I was between the Patriots and the Commanders. I feel like those were really the 2 easiest answers. But having the most cap space with a rookie quarterback, and now you've got a coach in there that you know what he's going to bring to the table. So I think there's less questions coach-wise than maybe there is in Chicago. Like, they just have so much money, and I think Drake May could be a good quarterback. Are they going to win the division next year? Probably not, but, like, I think this is a year where they either bolster their defense a little bit more, and then maybe next year when the wide receiver free agency is a little bit better, look towards that. But I think they have a lot to prove. And a lot of money to spend. A lot of money.
I mean, you remember I was going to say, you remember in one of the previous episodes I said I liked the Patriots to kind of be my pick to go from worst to first. So I think with that available cap space, you're 100% right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just think there's too many holes for them to kind of patch with, especially with the offensive availability and free agency this year. That's why I was kind of hesitant on them. I just don't know that the free agency is deep enough to really bolster an offense. Because, I mean, they don't really have receivers. They don't really have a tight end. So it's like
lack
they kind
of
of need
playmakers.
Yeah, and there's just not a ton of those. I mean, what are you going to do? 20-year-old Chris Godwin, who just like
that's kind of what I'm scared about.
Got his leg shot by a bazooka in a game.
That's kind of what I'm scared about with the Patriots, though. Like, they did this a couple years ago with Mac Jones. They went like all in, spent all this stupid money. Matt Judon, like everybody you could possibly imagine.
Jonnu Smith, I think, was
Jonnu
Nelson
Smith,
Aguilar. Yeah. Like they went out and signed like every key free agent, and it just killed them in the long run, killed their cap space, killed their future. That's why they had to get rid of Bill, because he was a terrible GM.
I think that was a Bill thing. I think we saw Bill a lot of times overextend his reach and thinking I'm a good enough coach to make maybe not the best players work, so just go get players that are available who might be decent.
Yeah, go get Ben Dover from the NFL draft in the first round.
Ben Strange, yeah.
So I don't think they'll have that big of an issue without Bill there. Yeah. Love Bill, though.
I kind of went the opposite direction of both of you. I thought more of a playoff team, because I'm like, who is the closest to getting to a Super Bowl and who has the most pressure to get there? And I think it's Buffalo. I think Buffalo and Brandon Beane have the most pressure this offseason, because you traded away Stephon Diggs. So you traded away all these players last year, and you had to get rid of all those guys because you signed like a Von Miller to a 6-year, $100 million deal, which is one of the worst deals I've ever seen in the history of the NFL. That might be a hot take, but it was bad for how old he was. And you just technically had a better year than you did last year. You've made the AFC Championship twice now. You were on the brink of beating Mahomes twice. What are you going to do to beat Patrick Mahomes? Because if you don't do it this year, I don't see how Brandon Beane keeps his job. Because first you said, okay, we're going to go with Joe Brady. We're going to run the ball. We're going to go all in on this offensive scheme. And now it didn't work. It worked to an extent, but it wasn't good enough. So what can you do? Because they don't have much cap space. They have like $2 million. How can you make this work, and how can you get over the hump? Because if they don't, I think a lot of changes are probably going to happen. Either Sean McDermott or Brandon Beane.
Or
honestly. or both, which sounds crazy because they are the cornerstones to how Buffalo turned everything around. But at this point, I see Buffalo as one of those top teams now where, like, I just feel like, you're, like, stuck. And it's like, how bad can we actually be with Josh Allen? Because he's what makes everything go. So it's like, as long as we have Josh Allen, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, you don't think Khalil Shakir, $60 million over 4 years, moves the needle too much for you?
I thought it was a good contract. At first, it like kind of blew my mind. I was like, holy shit, like that's a big number. But if you look at it in the context of like receivers now, like $15 million a year for basically a wide receiver 2 who can play as a wide receiver 1 if needed, not in the aspect he did this year. But I thought it was a pretty good deal, and it opens up the cap space a little bit more. I didn't hate it, but those kind of moves can come back and kill you, though, if you don't sign somebody to complement him and you're relying on him as your number 1 receiver. Then it gets bad.
Yeah, you can't make that contract assuming he's going to be your wide receiver 1. Like, you got to have somebody else playmakers. The Amari Cooper experience, nah, that did not
and
really
he's
work
a free
out.
agent. Yeah, they have so many free agents. Like, I was
Curtis
looking
Samuel.
at it. They have Curtis Samuel, Amari Cooper, Rasul Douglas, Ty Johnson, who actually balled in the playoffs. Like, I was very impressed with Ty. Yep, with Ty Johnson. And James Cook also is requesting $15 million. So who knows what kind of drama that might cause, because running backs are known to cause that kind of drama with contract.
He won't put on pads until like week 2 or some dumb shit.
I know, and then they end up having the worst season of their career, it always feels like, because running backs do need that. I feel like they need that more than receivers do, honestly, is that off season.
I will say, we were talking about how, they've gotten to this point where they've just plateaued. And I hate to say it, Matt, but your boys are right there too, the Ravens.
No,
Ravens.
I agree. I had them on the list too.
The thing is I don't know why. I cannot figure it out for the life of me, but I have way more optimism in the Ravens taking down the Chiefs in the playoffs rather than the Bills. I think
I agree. It's because Baltimore actually doesn't have terrible contracts, and they actually do have like cornerstone players on both sides of the football. Buffalo is like, it's Josh Allen, and then it's like, hopefully he can carry us there. Like, Baltimore has a good roster. They did roster construction really well. I think that's why you feel that way. At least that's my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the defensive side of the ball, and I can pick out, 3 to 4 guys that are just absolute studs for the Ravens, whether that be Roquan, whether that be Kyle Hamilton, whether that be Humphrey, whatever it might be. And then on the offensive side of the ball, both lines are pretty stout. Both quarterbacks probably neutralize each other out. I'll absolutely take Lamar any day over Josh, but that's a conversation for another day. And then one team's got Derrick Henry, one team's got James Cook. Probably lean a little bit there toward the Ravens, but both running backs are really good. Both receiving cores are not the best by any means. The tight ends both are solid as well. But yeah, I think when you look at it, the stars definitely outweigh the stars on Baltimore outweigh the stars on Buffalo by far. But yeah, I think it's a very, very crucial offseason for Buffalo. And I talked about this going into last year, was this same situation. And last year looked to be a rebuild year for Buffalo, and they came out blazing hot. I know they had that hiccup against the Ravens, but really and truly, other than that, they were blazing hot to start off. I think they lost in Houston as well early on. But if they don't figure this out soon, one of those other teams is going to catch them. Sooner rather than later, either the Patriots, the Jets, or the Dolphins are going to do something to catch Buffalo. I can't imagine that Buffalo is going to have a stranglehold on this division like the Patriots did for 20 fucking years. Like, I just can't envision that.
But dude, I don't see the Dolphins or the Jets doing anything anytime soon. At least not the next 2 to 3.
I'm starting to believe in the Jets again, man.
Dude, please shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ. Man, here's what I'll say about it. Listen, okay, if I counted right, since the year 2000, there's only been, 14 Super Bowl winners once you count how many teams have won more than once. Like, it's hard. And most people don't do it. Like, there's only
how many teams have been
one
there?
winner. That stat, that would take me a lot longer to count than the winners.
Because that's what it comes down to. That's why we put Joe Burrow in that echelon, in my opinion, with Lamar and with Josh Allen, is because he made a Super Bowl.
I don't know, man. Listen, if If I was a Bills fan and I went and lost 4 straight, I would kill myself. I would rather have not made any of them. I would rather have not got there at all than lose 4 straight.
Yeah, but hold on.
Noah
That's a
gonna
good
off himself over
conversation,
here.
actually.
Dude,
I don't.
there's no
Would
way
you
if I
rather-
lost 4
wait,
Panthers
so
L's
you-
in a row.
Would you rather lose 4 AFC title games in a row or 4 Super Bowls? That's a tough argument because
It's tough, dude.
one side you're like, I can't get there.
Listen, I've went through
Super
some tough
Bowls.
times in my life. There's been deaths in the family that have been super sad, hard times in family stuff. Panthers losing that 2015 Super Bowl was like top 3 worst moments of my life. Like, it is. You haven't experienced it, man. It fucking stinks.
Yeah, we
before we
have
hopped
2
on-
rings here between 3 of us, and yeah, I mean,
What'd you
Thanks,
say, Tyler?
Matt. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. How old were you for that first one?
I was like
was
5
alive.
when we played the Panthers. Are you talking to me?
No, I was talking to
Oh,
Matt.
I was going to say, when we lost to the
2000.
Patriots,
I
I
was
was
born
like
99,
5.
baby. It was 2000.
Yeah,
I was
that don't
alive.
count.
We were talking about it before we hopped on. The bounty game. I cried my eyes out after that. I was
That's what I'm saying, dude.
16 years old then. Cried my eyes out. Them losing that bounty gate game. I would rather lose in 4 Super Bowls straight than
I think
AFC
I would
Championship.
too.
And here's why. Because I have never seen the Vikings in a Super Bowl. Never. They've gotten close. They've been to a couple NFC Championship games, but I've never seen it. I found this out the other day, too. You know that the Vikings have never gone more than 5 seasons without winning at least 12 games, and they never had 3 consecutive losing seasons in their entire existence, and they've never won a Super Bowl. One of the best-run organizations, one of the best teams in the NFL over the entire existence of the NFL, and they just can't close.
Do you want to know
I
a
would
fun stat? The
much rather-
Panthers have never had back-to-back winning seasons, and we've been to
We're
2 Super
having
Bowls.
a mid-off right now.
Dude,
I
shut
mean,
up.
the Vikings.
Shut up.
We've been
This
to
is the worst franchise.
We've been
I've
to a
said
Super Bowl
this.
more recent than you guys. Shut the fuck up.
I've said that.
What about winning?
Terps
I
in
just
the
stated we're
Final
0-2.
Four. Terps in the Final Four is number 1. Vikings in the Super Bowl is number 2. I want the build up that week. I've said this for years. I don't even give a fuck if we win the game. Like, yeah, I do, but like, really, truly, I don't, because I want that build up. I want to watch every single TV channel talk about the Minnesota Vikings for 2 weeks straight, because I haven't had it. Never had.
Why?
I don't even
agree
know if
with
I
you.
ever will. I've like lost all hope at this point.
Dog,
Like,
I'm telling you.
I don't know.
But think about it this way, Noah. If you have a generational quarterback like Cam Newton,
Like J.J.
imagine if
McCarthy?
Cam never. Okay. Imagine if Cam actually never made a Super Bowl though. Like, I feel like it's the what if factor of
His
being
career
like,
probably would have been better because all people talk about from the Super Bowl was that he didn't jump on a fucking fumble when he was down 20,000 points on a 3rd and
Yeah,
19.
but he's known for that season, for that run, though. Like, when I remember Cam Newton, I remember that season, everything before the Super Bowl.
It was
like,
all
honestly,
for naught.
Yeah, I
That-
remember them losing to the Falcons. Actually, I remember that.
yeah, when they were,
I don't know
I thought
why,
they were going to
but
go
I remember that.
undefeated.
Yep.
I do. They were undefeated, and I was like, "What
They
the
were.
hell?" They rested everybody.
Yeah,
I
we
think, or
didn't
something.
play everyone. Yeah.
I
You
was
guys were what,
pissed.
15-0, right?
Yeah. It was a fun year. It was so much fun. But
Exactly. Would you
I
take
have
that back
not-
and go and lose in the NFC Championship game?
You know, that was the
Honestly,
year.
we
That
beat the
year.
fuck out of the Cardinals in the championship game.
Yeah,
I
but
know
imagine
it
if
should have
you
been
lost.
Vikings Panthers. It should have been Vikings Panthers, but Blair Walsh missed a 29-yard field goal.
Yeah.
That's what it should have been. Because Teddy Bridgewater, that was Teddy B's year, man. That was R.I.P. But like
Yeah.
that was Teddy Bridgewater's year.
Well, he's not dead, but
I mean,
His knee
died.
is.
He died
just did.
that next offseason in August, the week before the season started. Yes, he did. Unfortunately.
all right. I'm glad that we had a time to let your guys' frustration out. I feel like you guys needed that. You know, I don't feel
I'm
like you
looking
guys
at
got
the
that.
topics here right now. I don't even know how we got on this. Like, I don't even know what topic.
Dude, it's like a circle.
mid-off?
Like, we somehow like. All right.
Sorry.
So this past weekend, Matthew Stafford was allowed to seek a trade, technically, and I think it's insane if the Rams get rid of him in general. But who benefits more from? I guess who benefits more from Matthew Stafford moving on? Is it Stafford or is it the Rams?
I think finding quarterbacks to lead you to the playoffs, it's pretty damn difficult, you know. But it's not impossible in the right system. We just talked about it with Justin Fields, in my opinion. There, we saw guys like Sam Darnold, and we just talked about him, Russell Wilson, lead their new teams to playoff bursts on one-year deals. Stafford, in my opinion, is still in that quote-unquote it phase. And I say it phase because I don't want to say that he's in his prime for a 37-year-old quarterback. But he's a Jalen Carter sack away from leading the Rams to an upset win over the Eagles in the snow. They're probably going to lose both tackles, they being the Rams, in Noteboom and Jackson. They're both free agents. They're also going to lose Cooper Kupp. I personally think the Rams would benefit more in this situation. I trust McVay, and I trust whatever quarterback that they bring in is going to be able to flourish under McVay's system in a one-year deal. And I also think they're going to go out and draft a tackle in the first round to replace those tackles. I think they're going to be able to replace Cooper Kupp. He was starting to definitely decline toward the end of the season. We were seeing it. Injuries were plaguing him a lot as well. I just feel like Stafford wants $50 million. I do not think you're going to get your return on investment with Matthew Stafford. As even though I just said that they were literally a sack away from possibly being in the NFC Championship game, I just think $50 million for a 37-year-old quarterback is too much.
Come on, man. Kirk Cousins. We have a very recent example of how this can work out.
Oh, he was coming off an Achilles.
Yeah.
That's different. Way
No,
different.
I don't know.
I love Kurt.
It's tough for me because, like, I don't like to question McVay. I just kind of am like, yeah, like McVay's making McVay decisions. I'm sure it'll be okay in the long run because that's what everyone has said over the years. And they might gain some draft picks or whatever, but everyone was, chirping at him when they were just kind of tossing draft picks in the wind, and they got a Super Bowl out of it. So,
and now they're right back. It's the craziest rebuild I've ever seen.
Everyone thought, after the Super Bowl, they were like, all right, it was worth it. The trade paid off. They won the Super Bowl. Now it's how long will it be until they're competitive again? And it kind of never stopped. Like, they were still right there the past few seasons. I think Stafford, I don't know if the Rams are good enough right now. And I think they'll lose some key pieces, like you said, to where, like, is Matthew Stafford going to tip the needle and take you, with the lack of offensive line or, losing Cooper Kupp? And is he going to be able to push that needle? I don't really think so. So maybe he can go to a team that is just kind of missing that quarterback piece. I don't know what a good spot for him to land would be. I feel like it's, to me, it makes sense for both sides. Like, I don't think one side is benefiting more than the other.
No, I actually put that on here. I said it's a lose-lose situation for both of these guys.
But I think it's a win-win for both, too. Like, it just makes sense. Like, it's like parents that haven't been happy for 12 years, and it's like, you guys probably should divorce now. Like,
but think about it like
sense.
this, though. If you're Matthew Stafford, you could go to a worse organization like the Titans, the Giants, or the Browns when you're age 37. Matt Stafford has made a lot of money in his career. Listen, I'm not trying to pocket watch anybody, but I think he's made upwards of over $300 million in his career. Like, if you had a choice to go back to the Rams for, I don't know how, I'm just throwing numbers out there, $40 million instead of $50 million. Yes, $10 million is a lot of money, but you get to stay in L.A., you get to stay with Sean McVay. The Rams have $45 million in cap space this year. That's the most that they've had since before that Super Bowl. They actually have a first-round pick, who last year they took Jared Verse. And Les Snead, I mean, he deserves a ton of credit, man. He might be the best GM in the NFL. Like, if you look at it from, like,
all these late-round draft picks, too, like Puka, Kyren Williams. Like,
he doesn't get enough love because they think that they spend all that. Dude, honestly, like, their homegrown talent is nuts. Like, and then for the other side, like, if you look at the LA Rams, like, you were on the brink. I think they make the Super Bowl. I think they honestly had a chance to beat the Chiefs if they win that game against Philadelphia. So, I mean, you're so close and you have all the pieces right. Like, it's a loss for the Rams, too, because I think you're taking a step back when this should be a major jump forward. This should be the year. And honestly, if they keep Stafford and add on, I'd put them probably as a favorite in the NFC to make the Super Bowl next to the Eagles.
I'd put the Lions up there as well. But I will say this. Yeah. I literally picked the Rams because you guys are pussies. I thought we had to pick a team. Like, yeah, I don't think it makes sense for either. I think neither team is going to, or neither situation is going to benefit more than the other, in my opinion. Unless Stafford goes to, like, I don't know, who's like the Vikings.
The Vikings? Yeah.
Like
he would Stafford benefit.
Yes. That's the only situation where I could be like, damn, like Stafford made out well in that situation. He's making the $50 million, and he's on a team that could win the Super Bowl next year easily. It's the Vikings, and we just had this mid-off, so they won't.
Dude,
but
wait. That's actually a good question. If you're the Vikings, like, do you, like, sell your soul? Because, hear me out, you have J.J. McCarthy, who can sit for he probably needs it, let's be honest. He probably needs another year or two. You sign Stafford to a big deal. Hopefully he retires after he wins another Super Bowl. You just sell your soul. You have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, that offensive line with Matt Stafford and that Brian Flores defense, they would win the Super Bowl.
You have $63 million cap space. It's because you have a lot of impending free agents, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's the thing is, like, if you were to do that, you're wanting to win games 45-42. Like, your defense is going to be...
Or you just backload everything and just re-sign those guys like the Eagles did. Like,
I was
sell your soul and then...
Howie's book, yeah. Come on, Questy,
might as well.
learn.
and then when Matt Stafford's gone, you have J.J. McCarthy sitting there with three... Jordan Love did it. Now look at Jordan Love.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a bad idea. And the only thing, I don't know if the Rams would do it because it's an NFC team. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
I mean, if they're not trying to compete, just who cares? I think we look into that too much sometimes.
Kevin O'Connell has the familiarity with Stafford as well. You have to remember that. Like, there is that continuity that could help out as well. I'll say this. If you're going to give Sam Darnold $30 million, I'd rather just give Matt Stafford $50 million.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I fully
agree. If you're going to get a bridge quarterback, then just fucking do it. Like,
yeah. I haven't even thought of that, but that makes the most sense destination-wise for...
And the O-line is, like, one of the better O-lines in football. Like, Darrisaw, O'Neal, Bradbury, all those guys will be back. I think that it's...
You have the Lions. You need to compete with the Lions.
Oh, and we'd have revenge on his mind.
Oh yeah, that too. You get to play him twice a year, dude. I might be on the Matt Stafford to. It's a failed offseason for the Vikings if they don't get Stafford.
Oh, come on.
Thinking it was the Steelers.
I mean, it's a pipe dream, but it is with the amount of cap space that the Vikings have and with the situation of their quarterback, it's a team that nobody is mentioning right now, and the pieces would make sense. I mean, yeah, you're putting him with Hawkinson, Addison, JJ. Yeah, that's pretty damn good. Draft a running back maybe in the second or third round.
I think it's tough with McCarthy, man. Like, I'm big on not trying to stunt the growth of younger quarterbacks, and by the time Stafford comes in and plays 2 years, he'll be on his last year. What if Stafford doesn't look great? And so this whole discourse is, oh, maybe J.J. McCarthy should be getting playing time, or maybe should Matt Stafford even be playing? And then it's just all this noise, and, like, dude's coming off a injury where it looked like his team didn't even really need him anyway. So it's like, for 1 year, yes, I'd rather have Matt Stafford over McCarthy. But if we're talking about, you're trying to build a sustainable winning team over 10, 12 years, I just think it's better in the long run for McCarthy to be that guy going into this year.
I don't think it puts them that far back, though. You sign him to a 2-year deal, like you have 2 years to get it done. It is what it is, and then you move off. I don't think it sets you back at, like, years. Like
I don't think it sets the team back. I just think there's a potential that it sets J.J. McCarthy back, which the only reason then in turn could set them back.
I agree with you, Noah, except, and you mentioned it, he's coming off an injury. Like, if he was just a standard rookie quarterback that did not have an injury, I mean, first of all, if that happened, I don't know. I really don't think he would have played last year because of how well Darnold was playing. I mean, yes, we were seeing it in the preseason. It's like, damn, JJ's outplaying Darnold in the preseason, this, that, and the other. But, like, Darnold came in, Vikings started 5-0. Like, are you really going to just completely bench a guy that was 5-0? I'm Justin Fields. But if you're going to sign Darnold, I can't envision Darnold wanting to sign a 1 or a 2 year deal. I have to imagine that, unfortunately, as much as he wants to go to a situation where it's going to benefit him, he wants to stack his pockets, man. He wants to have that 4 or 5 year deal if he can get it, especially after having the year that he had. Because is this year replicated? I don't know.
Well, let's talk about Darnold. So I have 2 quarterbacks that I want to see where you guys think they land. We have Aaron Rodgers and Sam Darnold. Those are the two big free agent quarterbacks this year. Quarterback is getting solved in the NFL pretty much across the board, and teams are just taking risks on the draft class, I think, instead of going after guys like this. But I guess we'll start with Darnold. Where do you guys think Darnold ends up, and what might be the best situation for him?
Noah, go for it.
It's tough, man. He's going to want money, and I don't know if there's a team desperate enough out there to throw money at Sam Darnold. I could be completely wrong. To me, if I was Sam Darnold, I would want to re-sign with Minnesota. That would be my goal, because I know that I could hopefully get a multi-year contract and play well, because I think he knows, and I'm not saying these teams are where he'll go, but if he was in Jacksonville, or like he was in Carolina, or if he was with Tennessee, he's not playing well. And I don't know that those teams are gullible enough off of one season to kind of throw the bag at Sam Darnold and hope he fixes things. So I think he's going to have to land in that kind of middle of the road type team. But I don't know that there's any out there that I'm oh yeah, if I was Sam Darnold, this is where I would go, and they would hopefully pay me $25-30 million a year. My goal would be to re-sign with Minnesota. I would even take a little bit less money to do that. However, I don't make millions and millions of dollars to play football, so I can't say what that would be like to negotiate that contract anyways.
You would be a bad agent for him.
Yeah, dude.
I would.
You'd be hurting your pockets.
Listen, man, I've watched him a ton. I watched him play with Minnesota this year. He has the arm talent when available. It's just when things aren't right with him, they're not right.
Dude,
you saw the final two games.
Just so
those final two games. The amount of sacks he took in that Rams game and the amount of overthrows he had in that Lions game. If you remember that Lions Week 18 game, how many possessions did the Vikings have inside the 10-yard line?
The Vikings should have blown them out. They were the better football team.
So that's what I'm saying. For him, and it's been that way his whole career. Things have to be absolutely perfect. The offensive line has to be absolutely perfect. His weapons have to be absolutely perfect. His defense has to be playing really well. And I don't know that there's a ton of teams out there that are built like that. Maybe if he played for the Eagles or the Lions, it would be different. But those types of teams aren't looking for quarterbacks anyway. So there's no team out there in my mind that validates paying Sam Darnold that kind of money, except for a team that has that. But it's kind of questionable with a rookie quarterback being hurt for a year, and there's not a whole lot of quarterbacks on the market that aren't 45,000 years old like Aaron Rodgers or Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I can't see him doing a one-year prove-it deal. He's not going to do that again.
That's what this was. That's what this was, yeah.
Right, and that's what Minnesota is going to want, because Minnesota's we have our guy ready to go in JJ, but injury-wise, we might want to give him another year, so can you do a one-year bridge? And Sam Darnold obviously wouldn't do that, which is why we just discussed with the whole Matthew Stafford situation why I would not want Minnesota to re-sign him, because he's going to demand 3 or 4 years, if not more, and that's just going to put Minnesota back, in my opinion. I mentioned Justin Fields to Vegas. I have Darnold actually going there. I think that him
they'll
and
probably
Chip
take
Kelly,
anyone that can throw a football at this point.
Yeah, they're in the bad draft position. It's so bad.
I think him and Chip Kelly would be a great combo. I really do. I think it would give him the opportunity to, number one, start, but number two, I think it would also give him the opportunity to have success. I think the Raiders are going to compete next year. They need to surround him with some weapons, but the O-line is not terrible, and you've got Brock Bowers, who's the best tight end in the league. I'm not saying that he is going to have the year that he had last year, but if Vegas were to win 8 to 9 games next year with Sam Darnold as a quarterback, I think that would absolutely boost his confidence. Like I said, they have to get him a couple of weapons. They have a lot of cap space. I think they've got, they're number 2. They have $99 million in cap space. So you can use some of that, obviously, on Darnold, but use that elsewhere. I know it's not a strong position for skill position players, but I think that if you can get a running back in free agency or the draft, and then the other one, whichever one you don't sign, you target in the draft, I think it could absolutely. I think Sam Darnold could do pretty well in Vegas.
I've just seen him firsthand on the Panthers, and I know that was a few years ago, but we had decent weapons. We had CMC, we had DJ Moore when he was there. We had a top half offensive line, and he's
going to want a 3 or 4 year deal.
He is.
The Vikings cannot. The teams that do not. The teams that are going to give him that are teams that are hungry for a quarterback, that need a quarterback.
Yeah. Yep, and guess what that team is? It's
the
Pittsburgh.
Giants.
No,
okay.
It's the Steelers. They have. I know, but that dude, the Steelers make the most sense for Sam Darnold. Like, a perfect head coach for Sam Darnold. A good organization who has kind of their shit together. They're not off the rails like the Raiders are. And they have $60 million in cap. Like, they are ninth in cap space. They have enough cap space to be able to fill their holes this year.
Whoa,
and build around.
Pause.
God, rewind, dude.
They're gonna do what?
Fill their.
Fill the gaps. They're gonna fill
Fill
the gaps.
They're gonna fill their gaps.
Quit saying
God, you
there.
threw
Just
me
use
off.
the.
God.
They're filling their holes, man.
All right, whatever. Sam Darnold, you add Chris Godwin, and then you go and trade up and get Ashton Genty, and the Steelers are fixed.
So you're telling me that's the Steelers' fix? Like they can compete with the Ravens in that division. They have a chance at an AFC title with Sam Darnold and Chris Godwin. Those are the two things that are holding them back. Is Sam
and
Darnold,
Ashton Genty.
Oh my bad. Ashton Genty's basically Najee Harris in a different font. They're just
Okay, no.
They're the same type of runner.
Do not disrespect. We're not doing the Ashton Genty disrespect.
I'm not
Najee
saying
Harris
inability.
is shit.
Not
He's
inability in archetype. They're the same type of runner. Not
I
inability.
think it's the dreads. It's the dreads. Come on.
Not, bro, that's racist.
We're talking about a Heisman Trophy
one that
winner
made the
to
comparison.
Najee Harris, bro.
We're talking about Najee Harris, who hasn't had. Maybe this year. Did he have 1,000
Ashton
yards this
Genty
year?
didn't win the Heisman.
I said our Heisman finalist.
Dude, Najee Harris has had 1,000 yards every year he's been in the NFL.
But it's the most inefficient 1,000 yards
Averages
every
4 yards
year.
a carry in his career.
No,
listen,
no,
okay,
dude,
listen,
if
listen.
you watch him run,
listen.
if you watch him run, it is so bad.
No. Listen,
bad.
We're getting off on a side tangent. I was not trying to say Najee Harris.
Najee Harris finished 5th in the Heisman voting, so he was technically a finalist.
5th, but what did Ashton Genty finish? Second.
Oh,
Neither one won.
Second
so he was
best
the
in
first,
show at the
first loser.
Wait, did Najee? Wait.
Najee probably
Anyway,
won a championship.
we're off
It
topic.
was
I say the Steelers. I think the Steelers make the most sense. They've done it before too. I mean, they signed Trubisky.
Yeah,
They
Alabama
signed
went
Russ,
11
they signed
and 0.
Fields.
Alabama went 11-0 that year. Get out of here.
I'm off the Najee. Dude, he sucks. I'm not arguing
all right,
about
so
Najee.
where does
Harris.
Najee
He's
go?
terrible.
Where does Najee go?
Cowboys.
the Bears.
It's the perfect Cowboys.
I had Vegas.
Yeah, Najee. I have a good one though for actually, since we're cutting kind of close on time. Aaron Rodgers. I actually think Aaron Rodgers has a chance. I know this sounds insane, to go to the 49ers. And the only reason Brock Purdy is coming off an injury once again to his elbow. Okay, Aaron Rodgers is in the state now of his career. Does he really care that much? And he'll have a chance to compete for the starting job. Kyle Shanahan has not had a quarterback as good as or as talented as Aaron Rodgers has, and I think he fit that system so perfectly.
In San Fran?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say Matt Ryan definitely, but
He's gonna have to get Debo Samuel to lose some pounds. He's gonna have to take him to the holistic retreat.
But
get his
like
ass
think
right.
about like you bring him in if Brock Purdy's not fully healthy, like why not take a swing on Rodgers and say screw it? Like they're screwed down the line because of Ayuk and CMC and all these stupid. Wasn't stupid at the time. They could have won a Super Bowl, but all these crazy signings, like you kind of got. I mean, is Purdy the guy to win you a Super Bowl? Like I think they have a better chance with Rodgers.
I don't think they should re-sign Purdy.
I mean,
He's gonna want top 10 money, man. He's probably gonna want top 5 money.
Top 3 money, probably.
Yeah, he's around 9-ish.
And if I were San Fran, I would look at the situation that's going on in Dallas right now, and I would think I do not want that situation with my quarterback.
And you can get Aaron Rodgers for the minimum.
I put Purdy and Dak right there. One's had more success than the other, sure. But one's got better stats than the other, in my opinion. But I think they're right there, hand in hand with each other. Flip-flop them. I don't know if either team has a difference.
If you're San Francisco, would you rather go into this year with Aaron Rodgers or Brock Purdy?
Purdy.
I think I'm going with Rodgers.
I just man.
And the Kyle Shanahan offense.
You know who San Fran?
They didn't have a coach.
San Fran should sign Sam Darnold.
Again?
Yeah, could you imagine Sam Darnold on that Niners team, man? I bet they'd be electric.
Wait, hold on. I actually made this earlier today because...
Did you do a jersey swap, bro?
Hold on, bro. Don't ruin the fucking moment,
Pull
dude.
up that Photoshop Sam Darnold jersey swap you made.
Dude, I actually see you guys read my mind. Like, we have Sam Darnold right here. He looks actually really good.
Did you do a 49ers Panthers photo? Welcome to the Bay as well.
Yeah.
The San Fran alert right there.
Yeah, dude. Disgusting. Super Bowl Sam. Is that what they were calling him in San Francisco? Super Bowl Sam?
Super Bowl Sam.
I mean, he did make a Super Bowl.
Listen.
All right, Rodgers, go ahead and give me some landing spots.
Yeah, I got you. Hopefully his fucking couch in a gold jacket. I'm ready for him to hang it up, bro. Like, listen, we haven't seen a successful older quarterback come in and do anything since Brady, and that was Brady. But you go back and look at that Tampa Bay team, and like they were built for that. Like they were like, Jameis was clearly not it. He came off the historical 30-30 season. It was time to move on. It made sense. They had the weapons. They went out in free agency and got some defensive pieces. It made sense. I just don't see teams out there right now that just are willing to disrupt what's working to drop in someone like Aaron Rodgers, who like is great, but is just kind of, there's a lot of media stuff around Aaron Rodgers, man. Whether it's warranted or not, like a shit ton comes with bringing Aaron Rodgers onto your team. And you put Aaron Rodgers on your team, you look like the Jets, where people are like, the Jets are going to win a Super Bowl, and they're still bad. 2 years in a row, they're still terrible, which last year he was hurt. Like, if I'm San Fran, I'm not disrupting what we got to bring in Aaron Rodgers.
Is he a top 20 quarterback?
Yes.
Probably
top 15?
Yes.
13 to 12.
I mean, he's better. If you think about some guys, like, he's
Purdy
better than
Dak.
Lawrence. He's probably around that range. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's better than Lawrence. I think he's better than Tua. I think more of that range. I'm just going off the top of my head. I think he's a little bit better than those guys.
I have him going to Pittsburgh.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
I can't get off the
Everyone's like
infatuation.
Pittsburgh. I hate Pittsburgh.
I do too, but that's why he would be a perfect fit there, because it would just give me more reason to hate Pittsburgh. I can't get off the infatuation of him and Tomlin being together. Like they
Dude,
love
they're
each
best
other.
friends though. They are good
and here's
friends.
the other thing: is Stafford wants $50 million. The Steelers aren't going to give it to him. The rest of the pieces in Pittsburgh, they're solid. And you mentioned it previously, but Pittsburgh can bring in Devontae Adams as well. They have that cap space to be able to do that. And I think, when you mentioned it, it made total sense to me. And I think if you put him there, you bring in Devontae Adams, yeah, you're looking at a year or two. How much longer does Tomlin have?
He's like 32.
I don't know how much longer Omar Khan has because of how bad he's been as a GM, swinging and missing on quarterbacks left and right. Like,
that's what I mean.
You have to hit on one.
They have like a year or two time frame here where they got to do something. Their playoff wins are in the last decade plus are against Skylar Thompson, Matt Moore, AJ McCarron, and somebody else who's terrible as well. Like they've beaten nobody.
I think that's unfair to Tomlin. I mean, I don't know how much of the draft. It's hard to say because we're not in the room. I don't know how much of draft picks are on Tomlin or their GMs, but
But I'm talking
Tomlin
about from him.
What do you mean
how
from him?
How much does he want it? Does he want to stay? Like,
I think so you're saying not being pushed out. You're saying him leaving.
Mutual agreement. And literally a mutual agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if it happens again this year, I mean, I've said that for the past couple years. Like, I think it's time for a divorce. But if it happens again, there's no way. I mean, unless the Steelers just want to be idiots and Mike Tomlin just wants to stay mediocre. I mean, sure
you're talking
Tomlin
about
wants
the
to prove
Bills.
he's a Hall of Fame coach.
You're talking about the Bills plateauing. The Steelers have been in purgatory for the last 5 years.
But the difference is the Steelers have overachieved. The Bills really haven't. They've had their guy. They
overachieved this year.
Yeah, this year I would
when
say.
You have Josh Allen on your team and Lamar Jackson, are you really if they missed the playoffs, would you have been like, oh, that's
I'd
where
be a
we
little
thought?
surprised.
Yeah, so you kind of expect them to be in the playoffs, and when you make the playoffs, there's a chance that you could make the AFC game, especially when you have one of those top four guys. Every year, everyone talks about how the Steelers are going to miss the playoffs. This is the year they're going to go back, and Mike Tomlin's going to be fired, and it has yet to happen.
That's because he's never had a year under 500.
Exactly.
The standard is the standard.
But when was the last time
Barely
they
making
won
the playoffs?
Right. When was the last time they won 12 games?
was the last time they won? But did you guys? My favorite stat of all time. I think I've said it on this pod before. The last time the Steelers have won a playoff game, Barack Obama was our president, and it's still my favorite stat today.
And it was probably against what? AJ McCarron or Matt
that
Moore?
in itself. Yeah, dude. I mean, the playoff success. I mean, you can vouch for Tomlin and say how great. I mean, you're not winning playoff games, dude. You're losing to Blake Bortles, like in the playoffs at home. Like,
Hey, Blake Bortles
dropping
was
45 on him at home.
all right, let's get to the draft. Let's. I'm trying to watch my word. I want to say let's finish off with talking about a draft, but now I'm watching my words because Noah brought up the fill the hole thing. So now I need to watch how I speak now because now I'm gonna get called out. So my first question, because I watched a lot of tape actually, I finally got all 22 tape for
nice.
For college, and I'll send you guys where that is if you guys are interested. But
Yeah, for sure.
Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward? Who would you rather have? If you have the number, let's say number one, if you're Cleveland, because I think Cleveland is definitely taking one of these guys. I don't think I'm sold on the Titans or the Giants. If you're one of those teams, which one are you taking?
First of all, I'll say this. Last year's class, way better quarterback class, but all of those quarterbacks went to defensive-minded coaches. This year, they're not as good at quarterbacks, but they're all going to go more than likely to offensive-minded quarterback guru coaches. So I think even though these prospects might not be as good, I think they can go to situations that they will do pretty well in. I personally, it's a toss-up between them. I think Shedeur had a terrible O-line and a terrible run game all throughout college. His run game was the worst in college football for the last 2 years. Most of the recent quarterbacks have come from traditional powerhouse programs, whereas he's coming from Colorado, which is where that comes from with the lack of O-line and lack of run game. I do think he holds on to the ball too long, but I think some of that has to do with those O-line struggles. He's not as much of an athlete as Cam, but his poise, in my opinion, in the pocket is unmatched. I don't really give this guy a lot of credit, but Shedeur reminds me of Jalen Hurts when it comes to poise in the pocket because he's never too high and he's never too low. The confidence is through the roof for this guy. He had a 70.1% completion percentage in college, and he had 134 touchdowns, 27 interceptions. I look at him as probably a little bit less than a Joe Burrow, but above a Geno Smith. That's where I see Shedeur going. And then in Cam Ward, I kind of see some Geno with him too, mixed with some Caleb. I look at it as a lot of schoolyard bullshit, a lot of twitchiness in the feet, strategic runner. He throws the ball with such ease, though. If you ever watch it, if you watch his film and you watch him throw the ball, it's very, very fluid. The one thing that concerns me with Cam, decision-making. Too much throwing across the body, which leads to turnovers. And I will say, from what I've seen, when his first read is not there, he's too quick to abort the pocket and not cycle through his reads. He has improved from going from Wazoo to Miami, and I do see not only some Caleb and Geno mix, but I also see some Matt Stafford there as well with just a gunslinger mentality. I would take Shedeur, but I do think it is an absolute toss-up, and I think it does depend on the situation that they're going in, whether it's going to be win now or can you wait a year or two.
Yeah, it's tough for me to say, with them doing interviews and stuff and whatnot coming up, I've heard a lot of people say that a lot of people are impressed with Shedeur's leadership and IQ when it comes to football. But just ignoring all that and strictly just tape stuff, I think Shedeur's probably the safer pick. I think he's a lot more accurate and has better touch on the ball, but Cam Ward's got some zip on that thing, dude. So it's kind of like, do I want potential versus floor kind of thing? I think Shedeur has the safer floor. I think Ward probably has the higher ceiling. But we saw how that played out with C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson 2 years ago. So I would also probably go Sanders. I think on the sideline, between the sidelines, he's got really, really nice touch. He's not the best athlete, like you said, but I think if he could go to somewhere that has some weapons, I think he'll be able to play within a system really well. I don't know that Cam Warren has showed he can really do that yet, outside of just having ridiculous arm talent.
Yeah, I fully agree. After all of you guys actually touched on every point that I was going to talk about with Shedeur, I have over the past week, ever since I started watching his tape, like I've fallen in love with him. Like I'm starting to tell myself like this guy is going to end up a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, and I see, like Tyler, you mentioned that Joe Burrow, like that is my comparison. Like it is almost identical if you put those two side by side. They're not very athletic when it comes to running out of the pocket, but they can if you need them to. Like, I don't think Shedeur is like a statue. I still think he can move, and I think he had to in college, and that's proven, or else he was going to get sacked every single time. So, and he was in a pro-style offense. Miami is not as pro-style as Colorado was. I mean, Colorado was, if you go and watch their tape, it literally reminds me of the Kansas City Chiefs. Like their offense, they were doing stuff like underhanded to their tight ends. They were doing a bunch of screens. Like everything that the NFL is doing now, they were doing then. I think the only thing with Shedeur for me is his arm strength. Like he throws with a lot of anticipation, which can help with arm strength if you throw it beforehand. Like you're recognizing the guy is getting open. If you're running a seam, you throw it early so you don't have to throw it 50 yards in the air. But if Shedeur does get pressed out of the pocket and he needs to make a throw kind of like across his body, Cam Ward can make those throws, but Shedeur cannot. So I'm taking the safer pick because I see Joe Burrow in him, and I think if he went to New York, dude, like with Malik Neighbors, Wandale Robinson, like thing. And they get, dude, I would much, if I was Shedeur, I would say I'm only going to New York. I'm not going to Cleveland. Like I'm not. I'm going to New York. But
well, did you see that in Mel Kiper's newest draft, he had Shedeur to the Jets?
I did see. Dude, Mel Kiper pisses me off.
He would be going to New York, like you said.
I mean, it would make. I wouldn't hate the Jets. Like I think the.
You think that's a better situation than Cleveland?
Yes.
I think so.
Probably, but I don't think it's too far off.
I don't think it's too. They have a better defense, much better defense. They also have Garrett Wilson. I don't think Cleveland has a number one
before Shedeur in that.
I don't. I saw the. Did he have him falling all the way to 8?
He had Cam Ward to the Browns. Here's how it went. It went Abdul Carter, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell, the tackle from LSU, Mason Graham, DT from Michigan, Ashton Genty to the Raiders, and then Shedeur to 7.
Wow, so I just don't see the Raiders passing.
I didn't see past 8.
Damn it. We're at 8.
Yeah, I think I don't think the Raiders let him slide by. Like, they have obviously. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded up and tried to get him. I think I saw
Walker,
Jalen Walker to the Panthers.
That makes sense.
Shaq Thompson, rip, dude. You lost both of your linebackers over the past, 5 years that you grew up watching, Noah.
I mean, I like Shaq, but he's been hurt a lot. He's missed the past 2 seasons. Made sense. I don't know. I think Shedeur, both these guys I don't think are top. Like, if they're in Bryce Young's draft class, I think both of them are still. They might edge out Anthony Richardson in terms of prospect.
I think Shedeur, and I think Cam Ward does. Just
I think
because
they both do. I think they both slide in behind Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Last year,
the other thing that I'm going to go ahead and say,
I think Shedeur is better than Bo Nix as a prospect.
Probably,
at least to me.
I would agree with that.
I would take Shedeur over Bo Nix, and he's closer to Michael Penix. I loved Penix coming out of college.
He was just old. That was everyone's thing.
Yeah, and Shedeur's younger, so I don't know.
It's crazy. Cam's been to 2 teams, and he's still younger than Shedeur, which is wild to think about. I think they've both got some diva-ness with them, and I wonder how, when your confidence is shattered, how that's going to be. Obviously, I talked about the poise, calm, cool collective for Shedeur. When he's on the football field, never too high, never too low. I think a lot of that was because Deion was there. When Deion's not there, how is that going to affect him? That's some questions that I do worry about there. I tell you, the guy that I really love in this draft, Kyle McCord's growing on me. If you watch any film on Kyle McCord, go watch it. The dude's an absolute gunslinger. Started at Ohio State, transferred to Syracuse, was at Syracuse this past year. He's probably going to be 3rd, maybe 4th round pick. I love what I see from the guy. I don't know if he's in that. I don't think he's in that Shedeur and Cam tier by any means. But if you're looking at the next best quarterback after that, I love him much more than I like a Jackson Dart or a Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
Look out for Kyle McCord. coming out of this draft.
Yeah, got my eyes peeled, bro. God, this is such a poop QB draft, dude.
I actually might go. My next quarterback actually to watch is Jackson Dart because
just don't even watch Jalen Milroe.
I
Jackson
want to,
Dart,
dude.
Jackson
Jalen
Dart is such a
Milroe.
sick
I'm gonna
name.
fall in love with Jalen Milroe just because of the arm talent but I know he's basically worse off Justin Fields. That's what I'm already expecting that with Jalen Milroe.
Jackson Dart has to work, dude. That's such an elite football name.
Not coming out. Jackson Dart. Like I see it split
with Lane Kiffin. It's just
Lane Kiffin's a dog.
I remember the one that last year, not this past year, but the year before. It was him and Quinshon Judkins and Jackson Dart and Quinshon Judkins. Lethal. Ole Miss is always producing athletes. Always. A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf. I don't know if you remember Robert Kimdichie back in the day. Dudes were
You're too old
dogs.
for
But
me.
yeah,
You're getting
Matt Corral.
Matt Corral, baby, yeah. But yeah, go watch Kyle McCord. I'm telling you, I really like this guy's game.
All right, so here's what we're going to do for next episode. I'm going to send you guys where I get the All-22 film. It's $5 a month from this guy named, Caddy's Cut-Ups. It's kind of worth it. But I will say he gives you, a Google Drive and, all the – I'm kind of, putting everybody on here to the 20 people that will see this, but you get, you get the Google Drive.
If they've watched for an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah. So
hey, 20 bucks each for the entire year.
Yeah, dude, it's elite stuff. You can find he cuts it up to where you can watch either game and it's only of that player. So you don't have to watch the entire game. Gotcha. So it's 19 minutes long for one game, which is a huge game changer. So I'm going to give you guys that. We'll do more NFL draft next time after the combine. I feel like that's when NFL stuff will ramp up, so maybe we'll save some of this for next time because we're running over time. But I do want you guys to give me, before we end the episode, to give me one hot take that you guys think is going to happen in the NFL draft. I'm throwing you guys off because I didn't prepare you for this. But
no, it's fine. It goes along with one thing that we were going to talk about that we're not. I think Genty slides. I think he slides mid to late.
The Ravens?
I think he slides late, man. I don't know if there's a high team, a team in the top 10 that's going to be we need a running back this bad. That would be my hot take. Early prediction. I think he slides.
Wow. Tyler? I guess you kind of gave yours. Kyle McCord's going to be the best quarterback in the draft.
I don't know if he's going to be the best quarterback. What I'm saying is I think, like I said, draft-wise, he's not up there with Shedeur and Cam Ward. But I do think that he can go to a team and be a reliable starter in this league. I'm not saying he's going – I think Cam and Shedeur have the opportunity and ability to be a top 10, top 15 starter in this league. I think Kyle McCord's going to be in that bottom tier, bottom 10 to 12 starter in this league. But I do think he can be a reliable starter in this league. I don't know, man. I think I really I love the running backs in this class. I would not take Genty in the first round because of how deep this running back class is. Caleb Johnson.
Oh, you got no. You guys
I would not
hate
do it, man.
Bro, Jahmyr Gibbs went top 10.
Yes,
Jahmyr Gibbs.
I understand, and he went to a team that has a built foundation for him to succeed.
Bijan Robinson went top 10.
Bijan did too.
He went to Texas.
And how better
before
off
they
the
were
Falcons,
in the SEC.
How better off their Falcons for having Bijan Robinson on their team?
I love Bijan, but I agree.
How
with
much
Noah
better
here.
are the Detroit Lions having Jahmyr Gibbs on their team?
I would say
Probably.
pretty damn
I think
good.
he has.
I bet you they wouldn't be as good. And that's because David Montgomery does get hurt a good amount.
How much better were the Panthers for having CMC?
I
mean, how much better were the 49ers with CMC?
They didn't draft him top 10. They gave him the third round pick.
Okay, so you're telling me
how many of the top running backs in football were first round picks?
Derrick Henry, he was a first round pick, right? Or was he was round 2? He was round 2. Saquon, top 5.
Saquon was, correct. Saquon was.
Is Zeke for a couple years, not
Hey,
now,
Matt,
but
how
he
good
was
is
elite.
Najee Harris?
He was
First-round
drafted
pick.
late first. He was drafted late first.
The hit rate for running backs is about 30%. And by hit rate, I mean
So
those
is
are the guys.
quarterback.
Right. Skill positions in general. In my opinion, go after the lines. Go after the guards and the tackles and the centers or the defensive tackles. That's what I would do in the first round. I would beef up that line, and I would not go for the running backs or the wide receivers or quarterbacks.
He was
I think, yeah, that's it. He's back.
Nope,
you
there
cut
he
out
is.
for the past 12 seconds.
Yeah. No, we heard everything.
No, you didn't.
Basically,
what I'm saying is
go after the line.
Yes, go after
That's
the offensive lineman.
Yeah.
The hit rate on offensive line is way better.
Okay, 10 seconds, 5 seconds.
Emeka Ibuka is the number one receiver in this class.
Whoa. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, I'm gonna say the Giants trade up to number 1 and take Shedeur. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week. We'll talk about the Combine. Make sure you guys lock in and watch the Combine because now you have you have to. So
Kyle McCord.
Just saying.
Hopefully Jerry Jones will be talking about wiener sizes again this year.
Glory holes and wiener sizes.
or the story about him being racist, that came out the same time.
Yeah.
Too. I think the entire thing about Jerry that just went under the rug. Noah's just I'm bringing that back up.
Yeah.
You should say per sources on Twitter.
BBC's on.
All right, I think that's where we'll end it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.